In this video, you are going to learn the exact price action strategy that I use to get entries like these ones. At first, you need to understand the concept of liquidity and how to better time your entry point. Last week, before we caught this beautiful move right here, I mentioned this.
You want to be wise if you're ever going to trade this level, because notice it is a support level, right? But look at how many times this market has touched this support level. There are a lot of orders that were placed here. A lot of people are going to buy and put their stop losses right below this level. And if that is the case, this is going to act as a magnet and draw the market down. Close the gap first and then draw it down to the stop losses before it eventually starts moving up to the top.
And just like I said, that's precisely what the market did. Now, I was in this trade alone on my prop firm account. I also needed to send a signal to my private inner circle, which I did, and it ended up being the best trade for the week for all of us. I started off my account at $2,400 and we closed off the week with $5,000 in the account. So the big question now is, how do you spot these type of movements consistently? Let me break it down. Let's go over to my screen. What you need to do is to always pay attention to the detail that every candlestick is giving you. Now, we first saw a strong move up to this point and then a pullback and then another push higher, right? And as the market moved, it created this specific wick that we're looking at right over here. But the most important part here is what the market did, right? As it moved, it constantly broke out and retested certain key levels. And you always want to pay attention to all of those ones. Now, after I saw all of that and the support and the resistance levels that had been broken out of, I simply needed the market to drop back into this point of interest. And yes, as soon as it did that, I gave a buying signal in the inner circle, and for good measure, I also shared it with the free group as a nice setup. Also, you had the weekly analysis to use. So the trade played out pretty well. It kept moving up to the top, and on this particular trade, I did not want to take profit really early because we had waited for this setup for a long time. So I decided to push the limits over here, and I kept telling the inner circle to change the final take profit. So we kept shifting the take profit higher and higher and higher, all the way to NASDAQ all-time highs. As you can see right here, we eventually closed off the trade holding plus 600 pips on each of our trades that we had running. This was not just an excellent trade, it was the start of something big for our weekly analysis and for this brand new week that we have. Now, what are we looking at for this week? We have NASDAQ already at the all-time highs. We had gold in a dramatic sell-off for the whole entire week, and US30 just broke out of a certain zone, and it looks like it's also ready to go to its own all-time highs. And at the same time, this is NFP week, so the week is very loaded and it's going to be very volatile and super exciting. But before we dive into all of that good stuff, if you're new to the channel, welcome. We trade the NASDAQ over here. If you're returning, welcome back. You know what's up. Don't forget to hit that like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. Now let's go straight to the weekly analysis. Now, just by looking at the NASDAQ, that is sitting at all-time highs. As you can see right over here, we have brand new highs on the NASDAQ. Is it not just funny that the market does not really all the time follow those text examples that we always have? We have all these rules that, you know, if the market does this, it should do this, and here is a clear example that it actually did not do all of those things. Right now, we had two gaps that the market was supposed to close right over here and right over here, but the market eventually just shot up without even going back to close these gaps, right? So when you're trading, you always have to be open to these type of movements and adjust your analysis as the market moves. Right now, that's it on the NASDAQ. We'll come back to it. Let's just look at US30. Now, US30, if you are not in this trade and you are in the free group, I don't even know, because you're supposed to be in this particular trade, because we were anticipating this movement for a really long time, where US30 broke out of this area and shot up to the top. Now, to show you that I'm not just blabbing, this is the group right over here, and I had shared this setup a long time ago. You see, I kept giving you guys updates for the trade before it actually even broke out, and it has hit our final take profit, which is right at this level. So everyone should have been in this particular trade. So for US30, what I can say is you either just have to be in this trade, or you have to wait for a little drop, a pullback. That's already us doing our weekly analysis and talking about it right now. On the daily time frame, we have already confirmed that the bulls have stepped into this market on US30, and like I said, they are ready to also go to their all-time highs. Now, if you notice, they are faced with a resistance right at this level. You can see this is a crucial point that we had. Once upon a time, it broke out of it, retested. It couldn't hold this retest, broke out of it. So this is also a significant level that the market has gone back to again. So it might decide to just react at this level for quite some time, or it will break out of it. If it does break out of it, that's good. Then you want to trade it to the all-time highs. But what I would want to wait for to have a really better entry is maybe for a little pullback into this area that we have, because the market should always just retest these levels, right? It breaks out, it comes back for a retest, or it just breaks out and just gives us great momentum and keep pushing up to the top. I always want to catch the movements when they come back on the retest, right? So that's it on US30. You can clearly see it. You either have to be in this trade. Why? Because I really shared this setup with everyone, like I'm saying. So this was an absolutely good trade. It wasn't even something that you had to think about, right? Just a breakout and a close outside. You see a little retracement. This is a daily time frame. So on the lower time frames, of course, this would have been an excellent trade. Just look at that. A breakout, a little retracement. It came into a nice point of interest. You caught this whole movement, and you just rolled it up to the top, right? So that's exactly what we'll also be looking at on the daily time frame for US30. I am in the trade, so if you are not in the trade, you have to wait for it to actually break out of this area, right? Retest again, the same thing you did here, and ride up to this next level. Well, if you ride up to this next level, of course, the same thing that we did on NASDAQ, everyone would want to try and sell these areas. Then you want to catch it to the top and just take out all of their stop losses and ride it up to the top. But that's it on US30, not complicated. Look at NASDAQ last, right? Let us look at gold. Now you can see gold had been dropping, or gold is still dropping, and I also shared this set up with the whole team, if I'm not mistaken, right over here. And I had gold marked up like this. Now, if you notice, that's exactly what it did. It dropped to this trend line that we have right over here. But you should think like a trader, right? So what we're gonna do is, now let me not even clear all of these things, because the setup is still one and the same thing. So when you see the market coming to your point of interest, which is this one, this was our point of interest on gold, what is the first thing that you want to do? Remember, I said that everyone is going to be looking at this trade the same way you see this trend line. I see it. Everyone trading gold can see that trend line. So this makes it a very tricky spot to want to buy gold, because there are a lot of eyes on this level. Also, someone that would ask me to say, I saw a message like that, someone asking to say, gold has gone into our point of interest, should we buy right now? Our point of interest is based on the daily time frame. So the daily time frame had not closed for us to see if it is a confirmed trade, right? It will only be confirmed if we now wait for Monday when the market opens. Obviously, it has already closed and it's somewhere here. Depending on how the market is going to open, that will determine if gold will be maybe inside here and it would have rejected off of this level, or it might open with a gap and even keep tanking down to this level. But just for the fact that the trade had not been confirmed, that is why I do not want to start buying gold at this level. And also the fact that this is a liquidity area, right? Remember, we said that everyone is also watching this zone. So there are a lot of people that as soon as gold tapped into this area, they bought gold, and these are the stop losses that got taken out. So that trend line, they're saying they have the trend line, they also have a support area, so they bought at that level and they want to be taken out. So I would probably look to buy gold in these levels right over here. This will be my second level, depending on how it drops. Maybe if it comes to this area also, I might consider that. But let's see how that looks on the hourly time frame. No, on the daily time frame, I meant to say, right? So on the daily time frame, it does look like a good spot. I mean, the first one, let me just extend this. So the first one, you can see that if it breaks out and comes into this area, yes, I would consider it, because this is a cool support area. And remember, I always want to have two support areas, so that will be the first one and this will be the second one, right? So you're not risking a lot in these areas, especially on this first one, because that's already a trend line that will be broken out of, right? If gold comes into this area, I'll consider buys just for the fact that it's on an uptrend. right? It's trending to the upside, and I normally don't want to go out of the trend. For it to now show us that the trend has been reversed, or it wants to change the trend, it has to break out of these two support areas, and then this area now becomes a little downtrend starting to form. You see, if we have candles that keep dropping like this, to break out of this one, it will now start forming a little downtrend. At that point, I'll know that, okay, you know, that's a whole uptrend thing has been disrespected, and gold might just shoot down to the bottom, even to these levels, right? But so long it doesn't break out of this and that, it might break out of this one. I'll attempt it and try and buy it when I see good price action, of course. And if it breaks out, let's say the setup doesn't go well, I'll attempt it again in this area, and then expect it to shoot right back up to the top. So that's also it on gold. It doesn't look complicated at all. It's going to be super exciting for the week, especially that we have NFP. It's going to be super, super exciting, and we're really looking forward to that. Now let's go on to the NASDAQ. I think everyone has already made an analysis on the NASDAQ. I always see in the comments section below people saying that they also make their analysis first and then come to watch this weekly analysis, then compare the analysis to see if they were correct or if they were wrong, which is really good. I commend you guys for doing that, because that is exactly how you want to learn, right? So on the NASDAQ, you already know that we have new all-time highs. That's the very first thing you want to keep in mind. And consider the fact that it has broken out of the all-time highs, but has not retested those areas. So if you're not in this trade, you just want to wait for a retest. Right now, we also have a little trend line in this area. So if you draw a trend line, this is just a rough sketch, right? This is not like the actual thing. You now have to do it precisely when you're analyzing on your own. We don't know where the NASDAQ is going to just stop and start tanking down, right? It can literally just drop from this area, or it can shoot up and drop from this area. So this is a really, really tricky entry, if you want to just buy right now, because you don't have a reference point as to where you're going to put your final take profit, right? So that's what I'm saying. So we have to wait for it to come back into these areas, especially whilst we have this trend line. Also, we find a good point of interest around about this area, and we catch a buy to continue with the upward movement that NASDAQ has started, or we wait for it to break out of these zones. Now, if you go on to the lower time frame, you start having more information. As you can see, we have a lot more candles here. So if the market drops into this area right over here, you can see that's already created a spot. That's already the new all-time high. So if we go back again, that's the market retesting the all-time highs again. Then if we break out of them, we continue with that movement on the NASDAQ as we shoot up to the top. So that's just about it. It does not look complicated. In fact, it is not complicated at all, because this week we will be trading with exactly one same strategy, waiting for breakouts, waiting for retests, and looking at good price action. So this should not be complicated at all for this current week. And also remember that you should not risk your account on NFP on that spike. That first spike, you shouldn't risk your entire account on that spike. It's better to wait for the market to spike into a certain point of interest and then trade it from that level. Well, unless of course you have an insider that tells you where NFP is going to shoot up to. I mean, you can totally do that if that's what you want to do, right? So that's about it. If you did enjoy this breakdown and you found it helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. You feel me with that? It's Tino, and I'll see you in the next video. Love you guys.